Racism and elitism have many common factors and have long existed in the human race. Cultures are ripped to shreds if the superiority complex settles in with the hierarchy of society, and war among allies becomes inevitable. 86 is an anime which largely focuses around the 86th faction of San Magnolia, who are constantly oppressed by the remaining 85 factions. The Albas are silver-haired superiors who live upon the foundation of lies and deception of their own military. They don't know that lives are being taken every day in the 86th faction, and the fact that their lives depend entirely on one set of group who face suicide missions at the end of their terms. This anime starts off on an enthralling note by showing many details of the story in the world itself and not telling it directly to the audience. Where many animes will try to decode the most obvious and simple plots in the most complicated way, 86 will do the exact opposite and let the atmosphere of the show do the talking. The second they introduce the characters, that's the moment the story begins to unfold. Our lead character of season 1 of 86 is Milice Vladilena, who is the fresh new addition to the long line of Republic's handlers when she is set to command the Spearhead Squadron of 86. Lena has a very idealistic approach and is the only one among the military who sees the group of 86 as equals. Her aim is pretty simple. She wants to put an end to this oppression, bring back the candidates of the 86 inside the protective walls of San Magnolia, and have them accepted by the country. On the flip side, we have the squadron team themselves, who face death every single day and await the time when their Reaper will save them. Introducing our second lead character, Shin Nozin, the leader of the 86 squad and the last surviving member of every group he has been a part of. The squadron team doesn't have any interest in who Lena is and what she aims to achieve. Their goals are vastly different, which makes this plot so compelling from the beginning. Their actions require context to the world building, and it is done alright. I mean, it's not the worst thing, it's okay. One of the best parts about 86 is that the idea of all is not good. The story revolves around flawed characters who have very one-sided ambitions, and the great news is that the viewer is here to see them develop. Theo is one of the members of the squadron team, and in episode 3, he snaps on Lena's self-pleasing ideologies when one of his friends dies. This is the first time in the series when Lena realizes how badly she has been treating her team. You might not admit that she has been pleasing her ego, but her actions didn't do herself any favors, which is called out when Theo tells her that she has been treating them just like the previous handlers. That one moment of realization becomes the first step for Lena to develop into the character that shook everyone for the rest of the story. Death becomes a major factor in every episode of 86, when Shin has to save his friends from the Legion's manipulative AI. However, it wasn't up until episode 6 when I actually started to feel a bit nervous about the state of the team. The number begins to drastically decrease with every new mission, and that's when the story portrays the repeating cycle of the 86th faction. These kids did not deserve to be thrown out to live and fight on a battlefield that will only lead them to their deaths. Racism is built on the foundations of many horseshit ideas, and it genuinely became unnerving for me to watch Lena constantly struggle to keep the 86 alive for a day which will never come. The squad itself only believes in Shin to put them out of their misery for him to achieve a personal goal that benefits everyone. The two sides of San Magnolia tell different stories which begin to overlap with each other, and the slow moments of the characters' connection build a beautiful psychological relationship with the audience. 86 brilliantly showcases the consequences of a life lived upon ignorance and hatred. Lena gets constantly crushed between her protective personality for the Alba and the 86. Right when she is completely ready to give all her dedication to the primary goal, that's when the squadron team says their goodbyes and leaves Lena all alone. That's when the series lets the environment do the talking, and soon, part 1 of 86 comes to a close. Part 2, on the other hand, takes plenty of time in the first 3 episodes to find a proper direction for its characters. After a painful first half, it is no surprise that these characters have a hard time to warm up to some of the most wholesome folks here. They constantly push everyone away from themselves as a unit and are never able to digest a peaceful life. Frederica is the most adorable little goober in the series, who will manage to carry the show through the first 7 episodes through her story, which will get a satisfying conclusion at the end of the series. Shane and his team have come to an understanding that their lives only have purpose on the battlefield, and they have a hard time escaping all of the great things revolving around them. Their will to fight becomes very hypocritical when the audience realizes that now they are the ones who want to find a way to satisfy their own egos. The series hits the reset button, but it doesn't take anything away from part 1 of the show. However, that doesn't mean 86 isn't a flawed show. The series has some holes in its plot which could affect the interest of the viewer. Unlike Shin and Lena, the supporting characters from part 1 don't have completely planned out stories. The time they spent in the concentration camps with the bullying is very lightly hinted at. The key developing moments of characters like Theo and Anju happen when the direction becomes somewhat predictable. Many characters from part 2 were underutilized. The story can become a serious drag when it adds tropes on top of its characters, and Frederica can single-handedly outclass the remaining supporting cast of part 1. But all that doesn't stop the series from concluding itself gorgeously. On top of its flawed narrative, 86 still manages to dig deep into the best parts of the writing and showcase a cinematic masterpiece in its final 3 episodes. The soundtrack complements the build-up of the finale, and the animation goes on par with Violet Evergarden and Mushoku Tensei. The realism never escapes the narrative of 86, which makes it so exciting and devastates the audience when the curtain falls at the end. There is nothing more heartwarming in 86 than to see how the 2 leading characters manage to redeem themselves at the very end. It is remarkable that a show which I started 2 months ago has managed to satisfy me so deeply that after almost a week, I am unable to forget about the struggles of the 86.